While Formula 1 continues to annex vast swathes of karting's cultural territory, one domain remains resolute in defending its ground. A realm, largely landlocked, inhabited by a group of individuals unwavering in their commitment to the fight, even if they might not know it. This is Superkarts, a category largely divorced from mainstream karting, operating independently, forging its own path, and maintaining a fierce, unyielding, unapologetic identity. What makes Superkarts so compelling? Unlike other forms of karting, it remains largely an open formula. Being exclusively adult oriented, it is unencumbered by the presence of aspiring young drivers and their parents, all desperately trying to be spotted. Instead, it stands on its own, offering competitors the pride of participation in an elite class of racing. Few race cars can match a Superkart's cornering speed without an immense amount of downforce. In essence, it is one of the ultimate expressions of high performance driving and actual real technical development. See, I'm a purist, I'm a 100cc man, but what is left for me in the contemporary scene? Attending most major kart meetings now largely feels like going to a very expensive creche. Where's the culture? Where else shall I find my home in a modern context? There is nowhere else. All that's left for me, in the modern world, is Superkarts. Britain's karting landscape is uniquely positioned to foster this niche. Once upon a time, a robust short-circuit gearbox scene thrived across the countries. Most club events used to feature a strong mix of 100cc, 125cc and 250cc karts. At one point, 250 international karts, now known as Division 1, even raced at venues like Tilbury. But historic tracks like Shennington and Kimbolton feature separate layouts designed specifically for gearbox karts. This hybridity allowed short circuit and long circuit gearbox karting to cross-pollinate. One weekend it was Kimbolton, the next maybe Donington. Long circuit karting in the UK dates back as far as the early 60s, just several years after the sport's genesis in America. In Alan Burgess's 1968 book Going Karting, he wrote, "Eventually the breakthrough came in 1964, and many events have been held since then at Alton Park, Cadwell Park, Ingliston, Lyddon, Snetterton, Silverstone, Castle Combe, Brands Hatch, Aintree and the Isle of Man." In 1968, 250 International was introduced, allowing twin-cylinder 250cc engines. This eventually led to the dominance of the Yamaha RD250 engine that was sometimes hybridised with the TD3. A relatively affordable, Rove-derived engine that enabled ordinary Joes to pick up a motor from a scrapyard and race at Silverstone at the weekend. Then came the Rotax 256 in around 1980, which many say professionalised the superkart scene for better or worse. This engine package, which is an inline two-stroke, set the foundation of the type of motors we still see in use today. Promoting 100cc karts over the years as I have has taught me that hassle isn't really a negative, it's a feature, not a bug. I call it good hassle. Despite the challenges, such as the unknowable supply and the difficulty of finding specific components, this very unpredictability has drawn hundreds of entries over the years. Fundamentally, it's about culture. When you strip a sport of its cultural quirks and engineering challenges, it becomes bland and largely loses its allure, driving away the very people that once kept it vibrant. Superkarts remain unique because, unlike short circuit karting, where engineering has largely been stifled by spec homogeneity, there's still room to build one from scratch and express a level of engineering freedom. You can still craft a kart for short circuits, but with the dominance of products like OTK, very few people try or even feel they can, which is increasingly rare in the modern short circuit scene. When drivers are engaged in testing and refining their ideas, they develop an appreciation for performance differentiation. In spec-dominated short circuit car racing, a mere quarter of a second gap can induce panic because the expectation is that everything should be equal. But in a sport where engineering is central, this is just part of the challenge. Each lap becomes a new adventure, a new puzzle to solve, rather than merely logging hours on an engine and trying to get your circuit time up as a driver. When engineering is the focus, it opens up a wider range of satisfaction for drivers and engineers alike. They can find joy not just in winning, but in the process of refining their machines, solving problems and pushing boundaries. This creates a cultural force that can sweep people up, making them more invested in the sport as a whole. And let's not assume that this approach won't appeal to a younger audience. YouTube is full of channels where people build and modify all kinds of crazy machines. There's an appetite for good hassle, tasks that are challenging but rewarding. The key is to strike a balance, make some things easier to encourage participation, but keep other things challenging to maintain the sport's integrity and appeal. That's how you create a truly compelling experience. The relative decline of 125 and 250 national karts in short circuit racing has starved the long circuit scene of new competitors, posing the greatest challenge to Superkart. Motorsport UK's increasingly convoluted entry process, which includes ARCS tests, cumbersome online systems, has only compounded the issue. If karting is not made accessible, no amount of marketing or promotion will reverse the trend. I merely talk about the process of going from seeing something that triggers your interest to getting on-track racing. Right now, it's just a myriad of paperwork that, if you understand behavioural psychology, can be the difference between someone doing something and not doing it at all. Equally concerning is the state of marketing and promotion. While I recognise the immense challenges involved in organising and managing racing events, there is undoubtedly room for significant improvement, which I will not shy away from myself if need be. The thing about marketing and products is, now that Superkarts and karting in general is in the position it is, it requires an immense amount of investment in time to encourage people to change their behaviours and try something new. Paradoxically, however, while concerns persist over Superkart's future in the UK, international enthusiasts view the British scene with envy. The UK still boasts an active Superkart community, and while 75 or so competitors may seem modest domestically, it represents a thriving category compared to many other countries. Hopefully, with growing passion, the stories of warriors and visionaries, drivers, engineers and dreamers will be told. This is my goal over the next year, because this is karting's last bastion of true, unbreakable independence. Short circuit karting may have fallen into the empire of Formula 1, but here, in the world of Superkarts, they do not bow, they do not break, and they will not fade quietly into the night. And I will do my best to make sure this form of kart racing endures for the future and the future generations. I've made this video because I want you as the viewer to get involved. Get behind the projects, get behind the championships, get behind the races. There are a myriad of stories to tell about the history of Superkart racing, whether that be the Silverstone GP, the World Cup, the Isle of Man, the races at Adelaide, the characters, Martin Hines, Reg Gange, Tim Parrott, Barbara Hepworth. But for now, thanks for watching.